We begin, though, this morning with new developments overnight concerning the fate of imprisoned WNBA star Brittney Griner.
Overnight, during a diplomatic visit to Cambodia, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Russia is ready to come back to the table to discuss a possible prisoner swap with the United States. If successful, these talks could eventually lead to the release of Griner, as well as another American detainee, Paul Whelan. This comes just a day after Griner was convicted on charges of drug possession and drug smuggling. The judge sentenced Griner to 9 years in prison Thursday, nearly 6 months after she was arrested at a Moscow airport for having cannabis vape cartridges in her luggage. Griner apologized to the court before that sentence was handed down and asked for leniency, but the judge ignored those pleas.
That's why I pled guilty to my charges. I understand everything that's being said against me, the charges that are against me, and that is why I pled guilty. But I had no intent to break any Russian laws.
There's a lot to discuss this morning, and we have a team covering it all from London to the White House and the sports world. We're going to begin with a closer look at Griner's trial and the sentence with NBC's Kelly Kobiea in London and NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos here in New York. So, Kelly, let's start with you. This guilty verdict did seem inevitable. I mean, Russian courts have a 99% conviction rate. So what was the reaction from Griner and her legal team and supporters?
Well, not surprising, President Biden called this verdict unacceptable, and the same tone came from Brittney Griner's supporters, her team in Phoenix, as well as Griner's lawyers in Moscow. Griner made that emotional plea, that final plea to the court yesterday. We heard her say that she made an honest mistake. She asked for leniency and instead got a conviction, which was largely expected, but also a 9-year term. The maximum was 10 years. Prosecutors had asked for 9.5. Her lawyers said the court simply didn't listen to the evidence. They called this verdict completely unreasonable. And they talked a little bit about Griner's reaction just after that verdict was read. Take a listen.
She's very upset, very stressed, and she is, well, she can hardly talk, honestly, so it's a difficult time for her.
Her team said that they were absolutely heartbroken for her, but said that they never believed that the legal process was going to bring her home, that it was always going to be the diplomatic process. Diplomats in Russia, Elizabeth Root, who has been at that trial every single hearing just about that Brittney Griner has faced in Moscow, spoke yesterday as well. She called this a miscarriage of justice and vowed to keep working to bring Griner home.
Secretary of State Blinken, President Biden's national security team, and the entire American government remain committed to bringing Ms. Griner home safely to her family, friends, and loved ones.
Now, her legal team does plan to appeal, but again, Savannah and Joe, everybody involved in this process on the U.S. side have always believed that it's really not the legal process that's going to get her released. It's going to be the diplomatic process. And there is still some hope today that will work.
Yeah, we're going to get to more on that and the potential appeal in just a second. Danny, I want to bring you in here. As Kelly mentioned, the maximum sentence here was 10 years. She gets 9. What does that say here to you, and what does it mean moving forward? I mean, is that what you were expecting?
The real question is, was it an unreasonable sentence? And the answer is no, apparently not by Russian standards, because the statutory maximum's 10 years. She got less than the prosecutors were asking for, and she got 9 years, which is within the statute, apparently, in Russia. Was it unreasonable by our American standards? In my opinion, of course. But that really is a form of legal ethnocentrism. I'm projecting American values, the way we feel about marijuana in modern times, onto Russia. Now, that's not just my opinion. The U.S. State Department warns American citizens, if you get arrested for drugs abroad, you're essentially on your own. So that's why this is such a cultural issue, where we are projecting our American values about marijuana onto Russia. Now, is Griner being used as a pawn? Absolutely she is. But in a strange way, that may end up helping her because as long as that sentence was a reasonable sentence in Russia, then any other unknown person would be sitting in a Russian cell for 9 years. Griner now has a chance, and I think a very strong chance, to come home and be removed essentially from the Russian justice system. So do I think the sentence is outrageous for marijuana? Yes, but I'm an American practicing American criminal law, and that's why I think that. I don't know that we can make that value judgment on Russia, even if she's being used as a pawn. Look, that's what Russia decides to do with its prisoners, unfortunately. Glad we're not in Russia.
Let's talk more about the diplomacy, Kelly, and that possibility of a prisoner swap. Lavrov's comments overnight. Really quickly, where do things stand for the possible deal to bring Griner home?
Right. So the foreign minister for Russia said that we're ready to discuss within the framework agreed by President Biden and President Putin. So in other words, the back channel diplomatic talks about a prisoner exchange. Secretary Blinken responded to that, saying they're ready to engage. We'll be pursuing that. The original deal, which is on the table, is Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan, the other American detained in Russia, in exchange for the arms dealer Victor Bout, who's imprisoned in the United States. The U.S. has said Russia's counteroffer to that just wasn't reasonable. And a senior State Department official said that both Lavrov and Blinken have not met face-to-face at this summit yet. There's no plans for them to meet, and that the Russians still have not provided a, quote, serious offer for that original deal. Joe.
Kelly and Danny, thank you so much.
So even with the possibility of talks for a prisoner swap moving forward, President Biden did not hold back, slamming the verdict against Griner. As Kelly reported, he called the sentence unacceptable. For more on that, let's bring in NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba and Professor Robert English, the director of Central European Studies at the University of Southern California. Monica, I want to start with you. We got that strong response from the Biden administration. What more do we know about the White House reaction and their response to Lavrov's comments overnight about negotiations?
We know that talks continue, Joe, and what's significant here is that the White House's position has always been that Brittney Griner has been and continues to be wrongfully detained, and that they will continue to work closely, even though yesterday very specifically asked whether there would be any calls between President Biden and President Putin. The White House said that they didn't have anything to announce on that front, but that really this is going to take place, as Kelly mentioned, in the diplomatic arena. And we do know that those continue to happen, not just in Cambodia, where you currently do have Secretary of State Blinken and his Russian counterpart both there exchanging these comments overnight, but among other levels of negotiation. This is something where the White House has negotiated for the release of other political prisoners in the past. And so they're pointing to that kind of work and that special consideration that they give to Brittney Griner and Paul Whelan, because they have been working on this for some time now. So we know absolutely that the president said in that statement, he did call it unacceptable, that they're going to continue to work tirelessly. And specifically, the White House says the president is personally engaged, even though yesterday, when asked if he had reached out to Brittney Griner's family in the wake of the sentencing, the White House said that hadn't happened yet, but they didn't rule it out either, Joe.
Professor English, this would be a 2-for-1 deal. Does it seem likely Russia would accept a 2-for-1 deal? I mean, what does history tell us about a deal like this?
Oh, my goodness. We've had all kinds of 2-for-1s, 5-for-1s, political prisoners or espionage cases. How much one side values getting back a particular citizen, sometimes 5-to-1. So there's no numerical kind of balance here. Obviously, Victor Bout, the convicted arms trafficker, has strong supporters and matters a lot to Putin and his circle. And they think that's worth multiple American prisoners being released. It's unfortunate that we're talking about human beings as if they were commodities in a flea market, but that's the nature of this kind of thing. It's also why we expect there'll be a successful resolution, because both sides want it and have something to gain. It's just too bad it's so highly politicized now. And I would advise all parties, especially the American side, to dial back the rhetoric, the public pressure, the accusations of wrongfully detained. Brittney Griner pled guilty. She broke the law. In essence, she is absolutely correctly detained. It's a draconian sentence. It's extreme. But let's dial back the rhetoric. There are grounds for a deal here. We've done it many times before.
All right, so Monica, we know Secretary of State Blinken has played a key role in these negotiations. He's in Cambodia along with Lavrov for diplomatic meetings. Let's take a listen to what White House National Security spokesman John Kirby told Andrea Mitchell yesterday about the prospect of those two diplomats meeting to discuss these negotiations.
I have no doubt that if he has an opportunity to buttonhole Mr. Lavrov, he will do so. And if it doesn't just happen organically, I'm sure Secretary Blinken will reach out and have that communication.
So, Monica, based on what you're hearing, is there a chance the two could meet?
Absolutely. And I think what happens on the sidelines of these big world summits, it's extremely common for there to be a very brief exchange or conversation between somebody like the Secretary of State and his Russian counterpart. And then a more lengthy exchange probably takes place elsewhere, either on the phone or in private. And that's something that could happen. But what's important to remember here is that after the U.S. made that proposal, they did make it public eventually when some of those details came to the surface. And that's a strategy that has been questioned. And the White House was asked yesterday, was it wise to do that? Because then when Russia responded with their own counteroffer, they wanted to see if they could get a Russian national who's currently held in Germany, a convicted murderer named Vadim Krasikov, as a part of the deal. The United States responded that they didn't even consider that a counteroffer. They rejected it entirely. And then there were some eyebrows raised about why this was being negotiated, in essence, in public, in the media. And now the White House has said that they aren't going to get into the specifics and not negotiate from the White House podium or the briefing room. They are going to leave this to the diplomatic channel. So the likelihood of the two men speaking is high. And if it won't be them in a very public setting, it will certainly be other diplomatic high-level officials from the U.S. and Russia behind the scenes. And we will likely only learn of those details far down the line, Joe.
All right, Monica Alba and Professor Richard English, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Let's bring in USA Today sports reporter Chris Bumbaca for more on the sports world reaction here to Brittney Griner's sentencing. Chris, good morning. Thanks for joining us. So first, I want to play a little bit of what Brittney Griner's head coach in the WNBA said yesterday after the verdict came down.
It's extremely heavy. We've been carrying it with us all year, but to hear the news today and to see her in that situation and to hear her words, and it was just really, really tough. And I know a lot of our players are not in a great space right now.
Chris, how much of an impact is this verdict having on players and coaches across the WNBA? What are they saying?
A tremendous one, really. Throughout the entire season, the line has been, we are missing one of our sisters. You have to remember that the WNBA has 144 players. That's a lot less than traditional sports leagues that we see here in the United States. So it's a really tight-knit group. I know yesterday that when the Phoenix Mercury, her team, played the Connecticut Sun, the two teams had a 42-second period of solidarity in honor of Brittney's jersey number. And it's just another way that the WNBA has really come together during the situation, and it's nothing new from the WNBA. We have seen them use their voice, take a stand on social justice way before other leagues have done it. So again, this has been a big rallying cry for the league. It's brought them together, but there's also serious grief going on here. They feel like their sister, their teammate, Skylar Diggins-Smith, one of her longtime teammates yesterday said, we don't expect everybody to care, but to us, this is like a family member of ours that we won't see for a long time.
Yeah, wow. Chris, do you think this is going to have any bearing on U.S. athletes playing professionally in Russia moving forward?
Absolutely, yeah. I would be really surprised if we saw a player go back to Russia. I know that you can make the argument that Brittney Griner broke a law, and she's admitted to as much, but I think that this has significantly strained any kind of chance of WNBA players going to play in Russia, which was a really popular destination for them during the WNBA offseason. They had really good salaries over there, great perks, kind of lived enriched lives over there, which was why I think Brittney Griner felt comfortable going back to Russia amid a changing world landscape as the threat of the invasion of Ukraine kind of loomed when she went back there in mid-February.
Chris Bumbaca, thanks so much. Appreciate your analysis this morning.
Over on Capitol Hill this morning, Democrats appear to have reached a breakthrough on their showpiece reconciliation bill, boosting its chances of now passing in the Senate. Last night, the final holdout, Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema, pledged her support for the flagship tax and climate legislation. But first, she secured some key changes to that earlier deal that was struck between Senator Joe Manchin and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. In a statement, Sinema said, "We have agreed to remove the carried interest tax provision, protect advanced manufacturing, and boost our clean energy economy in the Senate's budget reconciliation legislation. Subject to the parliamentarians' review, I'll move forward." NBC News senior congressional reporter Scott Wong joins us now for more on this. So, Scott, this is a big step forward for President Biden's hopes of getting this huge deal passed. Walk us through some of the changes that Senator Sinema managed to secure here.
Good morning, guys. We always knew that Sinema was going to extract some key changes from this massive Democratic spending package. She said as much. She's a pivotal vote. So let's walk through some of those changes. It would remove the carried interest tax provision that Sinema had long been opposed to. There are new changes to the 15 minimum corporate tax rate, specifically removing accelerated depreciation that Arizona businesses had spoken to her about and expressed concerns about in meetings just this week. It would include billions more in funding for drought prevention that is critical to Sinema's state of Arizona and the West. And it would also impose a new excise tax on stock buybacks. Now, Democrats say that this new excise tax will offset about the $14 billion in deficit reduction that was lost by removing that carried interest provision. I know these are some tough terms and difficult tax terms, but the bottom line that Democrats say is that the $300 billion in deficit reduction will be preserved by including this new excise tax. So the bottom line doesn't really change. They're moving a few parts around, but Democrats say that this will continue to reduce inflation, which is the name of this bill, the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to talk more about that carried interest tax loophole, which we've all suddenly become experts on in the last week. I mean, put simply, it's a loophole that reduces taxes for some wealthy Americans, hedge fund managers, private equity executives. It is something many Republicans and Democrats support scrapping, including Senator Manchin. He said this about it last week.
The only thing I was adamant about is the carried interest. Enough's enough for the 0.1% of the wealthiest people in the country having an advantage. I'm not prepared to lose. No. I've worked. When I'm saying not prepared, I think the people that have benefited from carried interest for years and years and years knew that they had a good run. It was long overdue to get rid of it, and you couldn't justify it anymore. You really couldn't.
All right, so we heard that was a week ago. Manchin said he wasn't prepared to lose the provision on closing that loophole. Why does Sinema want to preserve it? Any chance this issue damages the entire deal at all?
Well, critics will say that Sinema wants to lose this carried interest provision because she is very cozy with Wall Street. She receives millions of dollars in donations from Wall Street and wealthy individuals. And look, the loophole does protect wealthy individuals. It protects private equity managers, hedge fund managers, people that work and make their living on Wall Street. And so it's unclear what happens now. Joe Manchin has not weighed in on some of these changes yet. So perhaps we'll hear from him later today. But Democrats feel pretty confident that that this deal will hold. Chuck Schumer, the majority leader, said as much yesterday, because Democrats really are running out of time here. They are trying to push this through as early as Saturday. They have scheduled a vote for Saturday. That will be a procedural vote. Then they'll go into votes on amendments. They'll have up to 20 hours of debate. And they're really trying to wrap this whole process up by this weekend ahead of their August recess. Members want to get back to the campaign trail, and they believe that this Inflation Reduction Act is a big issue that will help propel them in the midterm elections.
All right, Scott, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Now, the Department of Justice has charged 4 police officers, 2 current and 2 former, with federal crimes related to the death of Breonna Taylor. These are the first federal charges in the 2 years since the botched raid where Taylor was fatally shot. The news sparked an emotional response from her friends and family, including her mother, Tamika Palmer.
I've waited 874 days for today.
Because of Breonna Taylor, we can say this is a day that black women saw equal justice in the United States of America.
NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian joins us now from Washington, D.C. Ken, good morning. So, of course, very emotional reaction there from the family, and particularly making the point that this was a long wait, counting out the number of days. Why did this verdict come? Why did these charges come 28 months later?
Good morning, Savannah. Well, to answer that question, we have to understand what this federal prosecution is. The officers who fired the shots that killed Breonna Taylor were not charged yesterday. They have not been deemed culpable because they didn't know, according to federal prosecutors, that the warrant was based on a lie. So the 3 of the 4 officers who were charged were involved in preparing the search warrant affidavit that led police to the house that day, which was the wrong house. There wasn't, in fact, evidence of drug dealing at that house. They came in there in the middle of the night, knocked on the door. Breonna Taylor's boyfriend had a weapon. He fired a shot thinking it was intruders. The police poured 32 bullets into that apartment, killing Breonna Taylor, who was presumably asleep in her bed. So horrible situation. But the police, according to federal prosecutors, lied about the genesis of that warrant. So it took a while for the FBI to ferret that out. And in fact, it appears that one of the officers may be cooperating because there was a criminal information filed, which is what usually happens when someone is going to plead guilty and is cooperating. So that presumably explains the length of time here. It's also really notable that the state of Kentucky and its attorney general failed to ferret out this conspiracy, according to federal prosecutors. They didn't charge any of these officers except the one who fired a shot. Was accused of recklessly firing a shot in the direction of the neighbors. That officer was acquitted in state court. He's now charged with the same conduct with federal charges, and he will face justice again in that case.
Such important context there, Ken. Thank you. Now, Attorney General Merrick Garland said this about the officers' actions. Let's listen.
We allege that the defendants knew their actions in falsifying the affidavit could create a dangerous situation, and we allege these unlawful acts resulted in Ms. Taylor's death.
Can you break down the charges for us exactly here and tell us when we can expect to see a trial?
So three out of the 4 officers are charged with providing false. They're all civil rights violations, essentially violating Breonna Taylor's rights under color of law. Essentially, 3 of the 4 officers are charged with various aspects of falsifying this warrant and lying about it to state, federal, and local investigators. Garland even said that 2 of these officers met in a garage 2 months after the incident to get their story straight about how they would lie. And so, and he said that these actions directly led to Breonna Taylor's death. And then the 4th officer is charged also under civil rights provisions with unlawful use of force for recklessly firing his weapon in a way that endangered other people. And this is a federal prosecution, so it's going to take some time. It may be as long as a year before there is a trial, but these charges carry significant penalties. Savannah.
Ken Delanian, thank you so much. Now let's get a check on your weather for you. And 63 million are under heat advisories this morning.
Yeah, meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us with that. Hey, Michelle, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Yeah, that remains the big weather story as we go throughout today. And over the weekend, we are looking at 63 million Americans under a heat advisory, some under an excessive heat warning. And that's where we're going to see heat indices near 107 in spots. So Omaha, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, you're going to be feeling really hot this weekend. But these alerts stretch from the northern plains into the Midwest. The central and southern plains continue to bake as we head throughout the weekend. And we're looking at the Northeast, too, from Boston to Philly. Yesterday was brutal. It's not going to be quite as extreme today, today, but still seeing heat indices into the triple digits in the Northeast. So that heat wave does continue today. Temperatures climbing into the 90s in New York City, Atlantic City, Salisbury, Maryland, into Richmond, Virginia. But notice the heat index. That's where we're seeing really high humidity. It will feel like 100 degrees in Salisbury, feeling like 101 in Richmond, and it will feel like close to 100 by this afternoon in New York City. Then tomorrow we're looking at the heat returning to the Midwest. Temperatures into the 90s, upper 90s in Omaha. That's where it's going to feel like 107. It'll feel like 102 in St. Louis, and hot too in Detroit, feeling like 96 degrees. Now this heat and humidity will spark some storms later on this afternoon and evening. We're looking at the Mid-Atlantic from Philly to D.C. D.C. had some strong storms yesterday down to Norfolk, Virginia, even into the Midwest where you see the yellow there. We do have a slight risk for Fargo, where we could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour, the chance of some small hail, even the chance of a tornado or two. We're going to be watching that closely this afternoon. And this is a big story for the weekend. We're watching another flood threat. We do have a flood watch for parts of Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia once again, portions of Kentucky, unfortunately, and also Western Virginia. We're watching rainfall in parts this morning and even seeing a flash flood warning. That's where you see those red boxes there. So again, with any of these storms, we can see some really heavy rainfall. And you guys, we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 4 inches. And we're going to be watching this all weekend long because it's just going to be rounds of storms kind of training over the same areas. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.